These are the new ones. Like say, like you have to listen to what. That's sort of stuff.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's meeting of the South Planning Committee. Item 1, apologies for absence and appointment of substitute members.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies from the Vice Chair, Councillor Ken Pritchard, who is substituted by Councillor Phil Bignell, and apologies from Councillor Eastwood, Local Ward Member for Silverstone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest, do we have any? No, thank you. Item 3, the minutes. Do we confirm the minutes of the meeting of the committee held on the 6th of February? Are we agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. Members of the public are permitted to film, broadcast and report on the meeting, subject to the efficient running of the meeting not being affected. Only those people who have registered in line with the committee's speaking procedure may address the committee. Members of the public are requested not to call out during the committee's discussion on any item. All speakers have 3 minutes in which to make their statement and are asked to remain seated after they have addressed the committee to answer any questions the committee may have. This meeting is being webcast on the Council's corporate YouTube channel. However, we are utilising a backup webcasting system for this meeting. Therefore, when speaking, please speak clearly and concisely into your microphone at all times. There are no planned fire drills, so if the alarm does sound, evacuation instructions will be given by Democratic Services. Please ensure that any devices are switched off or onto silent mode. For the benefit of the public watching remotely, I will now introduce the top table, starting on the furthest right, where we have Catherine Hall, our Head of Legal Services, Richard Woods, our Democratic Services Officer. I'm Councillor Stephen Copley, Committee Chairman. On my left, we have Nathan Loud, our Development Management Team Leader, and beyond him, we have Shamal London, who's the Planning Officer responsible for his report on item 6 that we're dealing with on our agenda. Item 5, do we have any proposed committee site visits? And are you coming in to tell me about committee composition?
Thanks, Chair. Just before we go to item 6, it's been brought to the attention of officers that some material has been circulated via email. These drawings are not supplied by the council and should be disregarded. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 6, land north of Morton Road, Eden. Mr. London.
Evening, members. Sorry. The application relates to land north of Morton Road. The application site is located along the northern side of Morton Road and would be located at a prominent edge of village location. The area is made up of an array of mixed dwelling types, varying from single-story bungalows to 2-story and 1.5 semi-detached and detached dwellings. Recently approved neighbouring dwelling number 7 Morton Road is would be the only adjoining dwelling. That is, sorry, this is a detached dwelling of a more modern and contemporary architectural style. To the north and east is the open countryside. So this is a star that basically marks where the proposed dwelling would be located. This is a location of the proposed dwelling in relation to the confine. The black outline is the village boundary, so the confine boundary. The application seeks approval for the reserved matters pursuant to the original outline planning permission for the erection of a self-built dwelling. It is important to note that the principle of development has already been established at outline stage. Any plans that were submitted at outline stage are indicative. This application is to assess the reserved matters, which are access, layout, scale, appearance, and landscaping. Consultee comments were received. The Highways Department, they raised no objection. They did request additional information in regard to visibility space. However, that additional information was submitted and no objections raised. The ecology officer raised no objection to the proposal, subject to the attachment of a pre-commencement condition. The parish council raised concerns in regard to the proposed development and in regard to the amended plans, mainly in regard to the relation of the proposed dwelling in relation to the rear elevation of the neighbouring property number 7. This concern was recorded as an objection by the authority. I should point out that there were amendments to the scheme over the course of the application. Firstly, there was an amendment to the maximum height of the dwelling. It was reduced by approximately 1 metre from a max height of 10.1 to 9.1 metres. There was the omission of a garage which would have been located along the front of the proposed dwelling, and there was also the location plan was amended to show the true reflection of where the property would be located within the block. So these are proposed elevations of the dwelling, and I should point out that these are the elevations that were assessed, and these are the proposed floor plans. Now, this is a proposed a comparison of the two properties. So when I say the two properties, the neighbouring property, number 7, and the application site. So the application site would be located approximately 19.8 metres away when measured from Morton Road. And neighbouring property, number 7, is located approximately 14.7 meters away from Morton Road. So as you can see, the proposed dwelling would be located deeper within this plot. This is a proposed site layout. So there's further comparisons. So the proposed dwelling would be located approximately 5 meters deeper within this plot in comparison to number 7. There would be an exposed flank of approximately 6 meters. So from the rear wall of neighbouring property number 7, there would be approximately 6 meters of exposed side wall. And the separation distance from wall to wall is approximately 6 meters. This is a proposed street elevation, which shows a direct comparison of the heights between the two dwellings. As I aforementioned, the height was amended to be reduced to not exceed number 7's ridge height. It should be pointed out that the neighbour has produced her own elevations to show that the proposed dwelling would exceed the height of her neighbouring property, which is number 7. Officers can only assess plans that were submitted. While officers acknowledge there would be an element of land levelling, it is not considered that this would be excessive to the point that it would exceed the maximum height of number 7. Moreover, a condition has been attached for finished floor levels to be submitted prior to commencement of the development. So these are some photos of the application site. The photo to the right is basically a view of the open countryside. So this is looking towards out of the village or into, depending on your direction of travel. And this photo on the left is basically looking further into the village. This is a photo of the neighbouring property when stood within the plot. So as you can see, there are changes in level of land. So the land would slope from the north to the south. So Morton Road, the road would be located outside of this photo here. So it would slope from north to south, and it would also slope from east to west. This is another photo of the application site, and this photo shows a view of the dwelling, or a view of the dwelling when you're coming from the open countryside into the village. And this photo basically shows what the property would look like from the front, or what it currently looks like from the front. In summary, no objections were raised by the ecology or the highways officers. An objection was raised by the parish council. However, officers consider that given the existing variation in the building line and the fact that the neighbour's view of the open countryside is not protected, the proposed location of the dwelling within the plot would be acceptable. Officers are satisfied the proposal would result in acceptable impact on the character and appearance, subject to the addition of a condition to control finished floor levels, and the proposal would result in acceptable impact on the residential community. Given the variation of dwelling sizes, a flexibility in the proposal of a detached dwelling of this size is considered acceptable. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions to officers? No? Thank you very much. I'll turn to the public speakers now. We have Yes, the statement of address, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a statement from Councillor Alison Oxford, who is the local ward member for this area, and this has been submitted in capacity as the call-in originator for this application. Councillor Oxford has sent apologies, so cannot be here tonight, so I shall read her statement. Eden Parish Council objected to the application with serious concerns about the scale, size, siting and nature of the proposed developments reserve matters compared to the outline planning granted in application WNS 2023-0260 OUT. It is our understanding that reserve permissions must bear some resemblance to the outline granted in size, scale and positioning of the developments in the plot. It is our view that in this case it does not. A double garage in the front of the property, which itself is unusual in Eden, has been moved to the side, and the whole report proposal is considerably larger in depth, width, and eaves height. Originally, a 1.5 storey height was agreed in the outline planning, granted the proposals for 2 stories. The applicant has made some amendments to the original plans. Changed plans have been presented, but there is no current elevation and block plan available to show all as superseded. So how can a proper decision be made without correct information? The scale, form and layout is completely altered with the previous outline application. Eton Parish Council have made the following objections, which are still pertinent, particularly in light of the lack of clarity as to what the current proposal is. Outline permission was for a 1.5 storey house with clear indication of roof bedrooms and perhaps dormer windows. This is in keeping with other properties in the Morton Road, and including the most recently built next door and the conversion of the East of Eden property. We would ask that this be a condition if the application is granted. Eton Parish Council is particularly concerned about the eaves and ridge heights proposed, which will be dominant compared to the other properties and considerably larger and higher as a full 2-storey building is proposed. The gable width is also considerably larger than nearby properties at approximately 10 metres compared to 6 or 7 metres on nearby houses. Again, we would ask that this be a condition if the application is granted. Morton Road has natural contours which slope away from the village, and floor levels need to follow this contour by stepping down as well to reduce any dominance of the property. The Parish Council is also concerned about the eastern elevation, which in our opinion should not be greater in height than the neighbouring property at number 7. This is the view seen on the entrance to the village. We understand that currently no pre-application advice is available to applicants, but respectfully suggest that reference is made to this aspect in the ridge and the eaves heights in the permission for number 7, application S 2020-1318 FUL, determined by South Northamptonshire Council, which specifically addresses the same concerns discussed in the approved decision. Again, we request that this be a condition if permission is granted. The well-defined building line should also be maintained for consistency alongside the Morton Road. We also view that this is because of the size. It does not sit well with the site and is unnecessarily close to the adjoining property. We also question whether a proper retaining wall is necessary on the western edge of the site. Another request that this be a condition if permission were to be granted. In conclusion, we object to the current proposal and are unclear what the latest proposal is, and can only object based on the superseded plans shown. We do so as we believe the proposal bears little resemblance to the outline permission and needs amendment of size, floor level, roof height, gable width, positioning of the plot in the plot, and appearance on the eastern elevation. And that concludes the statement of Councillor Maxim Eastwood. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And now I'll turn to our public speakers. Our first public speaker is Keith Simmons, the Chair of Eton Parish Council.
Councillor Eastwood wrote that before the latest plan appeared, so that's why it's kind of a little bit out of date as well.
Thank you very much. If you press the button in the centre of the microphone,
Mark 0.
yes, that one there.
That one.
Yeah. Please start when you're ready, and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, Keith Simmons, Eton Parish Council. We asked for this application to be called in as we believe there are fundamental issues which needed to be brought forward. It's a rare thing for our council to do that. Now we've had the opportunity to view the full officer's report and yet more amended plans, I wish to make the following points. Surely the point of an outline planning application is that it should bear some relation to the full application. We still believe this one does not in scale, size and positioning. What is the point of an outline if this does not matter? The plans have been changed at least 3 times in the process and still they're not completely clear. The latest show the removal of the garage completely, but that plan still refers to a non-existent topographical survey. The levels are critical to this application as they have a fundamental part in determining how the dwelling sits, both in the site but also on the appearance and impact in respect of number 7 and also the street scene. The officer suggests that the floor levels be a condition of approval. Our view is that this is so fundamental to this application that it should be determined prior to the approval, so that our council and the neighbours are aware of exactly how the house sits in the landscape and on the side, so there's no dubiety about it. We now request that as the garage has been removed from the plan, that the building line has no reason why that cannot be maintained to line up with number 7. There is no need to set the house back into the side. And I even believe that the building line was a condition of the permission granted for number 7. And the next property, number 5, also follows that building line, despite what the officer's report says, that the properties on the northern side do not follow the line. This repositioning would actually alleviate some of the concerns from the neighbour from number 7. We can't see why that cannot be done. Even if it's approved, we would ask for a condition that no external garage be built in front of the property, as this is the officer's view that it's not in keeping with the street scene in his report. We are very concerned about the overall size of the property, as we believe there is only one double-storey property in the whole street, well away from the side, not as described in the report. And this 2-storey house would not be in keeping with the rest of the street scene. The gable widths are very large compared to the rest of the street scene, and as you've been informed, it is still not clear what the ridge heights are in comparison with number 7. And as pointed out, outline was for a 1.5-storey property. We are not opposed to the development in principle, just that the current application needs further amendment of size, floor levels, roof height, gable width, and conditioning in the plot. In conclusion, we believe the approval should actually be delayed until the plans are clear and more in line with the outline permission and consultation fully undertaken. Amended plans do not always seem to be the point. I take it that's the end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons. If you could remain there in case of questions from the members. Any questions for Mr. Simmons? No, thank you very much. And now we have Sue Jobbins, a local resident, as an objector. Yes. Please press the button in the centre of the microphone sound when you're ready. Please speak.
Okay, perfect. Shall I start now? Yeah. Hi, I'm the only neighbour consultee, so I've been placed in a difficult position as I'm forced to object to this application in its current form. I welcome my new neighbours, of course. The application drawing showing the elevations of the proposed house, which includes a part drawing of my property, notated outline of neighbouring dwelling, is simply wrong. The drawing indicates the scale of my property being comparable with the proposal. You'll see from the drawing that I've sent you that the bulk and scale of my house has been greatly exaggerated. The street scene in the officer's report gives a misleading impression of the scale of the proposed house, particularly as it's built on a level 1.2 metres below my house, or lower than my house. My house is made to appear taller than it actually is. The highest point of my roof is in fact 8.2 metres, not 9.2 metres as indicated in the drawing. The house also steps down to the north, not the south, the north, at the back, but the roof heights remain the same throughout. This house will stand very tall in the countryside. I feel the ridge heights and width of eaves should have been conditioned as with my house. There's no existing levels information to reference the proposed levels to. The drawing refers to the need to take these from the topographical survey, and this wasn't provided. So this gives no indication of finished floor levels. How can the proposal be considered properly without the floor levels? The report states that the house won't be overly dominant. I disagree, particularly given its depth and position on the plot. A condition of my own self-build completed just 2 years ago was that it could be no deeper than 12 metres from the build line to the back to reduce its visibility into Eden. The block plan is misleading as well, as it doesn't include the porch to my house 1 metre deep, so the proposal appears to sit closer to the build line than it actually does. The site plan, which I can see just now had sight of, is different again to the block plan and shows the proposal sitting approximately 6 metres back from the build line, so more inconsistencies. Contrary to the officer's report, there is an established build line on the north side of the street. I had to build to it, and there's no reason at all for this proposal to sit back from the build line. In doing so, it could set a precedent for the build line for number 5 about to shortly be built. Conditions are just not being applied consistently. So due to its height, 2-storey form, of which there are none in the Moreton Road, apart from one ex-council house in the very far top corner, mine had to be built to 1.5-storey, quite rightly. Its depth, position and design, which is alien to Eden, I don't think it is sympathetic in all of these aspects, or to conserve and enhance the area's character and appearance, as the officer suggests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you'd remain there in case of questions from members. Do we have any questions from Mr. Robbins? No? Oh, Councillor Randall.
Yeah, only that obviously there is some sort of dispute with the height of the houses. Now, I don't know how old your property is.
So 2 years old.
2 years old, so that would have had planning permission on heights. So I would have thought that would have been quite easy to get the heights from that house to make sure that we got them correct. So are we confident that the council's measurements are correct or not?
I think we'll ask the officers to comment on that point. Thank you. Any questions for our speaker? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have the agent for the applicant, Simon Ackerman. Please start when you're ready.
Thank you. I think we're not going to dwell too much on the report. I think the main concerns here are in relation to the levels and
Can you speak into the mic, please?
sorry, how that sits in relation to the site and the neighbouring dwelling. We have had a topographical survey done, and yes, that wasn't submitted as part of the application. But on one of the plans, which has the landscape drawing on it, it does have those existing levels relayed onto it. So we have had a topographical survey done, and we have recorded the ridge height of the neighbouring property. So the relationship between the existing ground level and the neighbouring property's ridge level is correct. Those 2 points are fixed. The dwelling that we have come to through revisions and discussions with the planning officer have reduced the height of that house in order for it to be no higher than or the same as the neighbouring house next door. During the course of getting those levels, we don't have access to go onto the neighbouring site in order to record their ground levels. So the ridge level of that neighbouring house is correct. The drawings that we produce in terms of the plans and the elevation, the heights of those are correct. If there is a discrepancy or there's information that isn't included, it's the existing ground levels of the neighbouring house that we can't really record. So I think the main thing is trying to address that, which seems to be the main cause of concern of this application, that I believe. Everything else in relation to the original approval, the outline approval, which was noted by the planning officer, is that outline approval was for the principle of development and for access. Although drawings were approved in relation to that, the application was for the access and the principle of development, not what that house will look like. So obviously what we propose, we feel is acceptable in terms of what goes on in Eden. My client feels that it's acceptable, but unfortunately design is sometimes a personal choice, so we can't sort of control that. So, yeah, I don't think there's much more to say in relation to that. It seems to be the main concern of this application.
Thank you very much. If you remain there in case of questions. Councillor Barton.
It looked from the elevations that the officer put up as if it's a case of the land falling away to the east slightly, so that you get a bigger house within the same limit on roof line. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you've got the neighbouring ground level, you've got exacerbated our ground level. So yes, if you've got a fixed ridge level, then it's going to allow you to have a taller house, but it's no taller than the neighbouring dwelling.
Yeah. And who's the house for?
My client, Mr. and Mrs. Beasley.
Yeah. So it's not one of these self-builds where, we might go and fetch someone from somewhere.
No,
No, it's for someone who wants a house. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Clubby.
It is kind of similar to Mr. Barter's actually, but the officer has recommended that the no development will take place until details of all finished floor levels in relation to the existing and proposed levels and the adjacent have been submitted. So in lay terms, we will make sure that the finished floor levels will be such that the building will match next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is drawn on that elevation is accurate.
Mhm.
I've got a copy of the topographical survey with us, but if the application is approved and the condition is placed on it, then yes, we have all the information to corroborate what's actually happening on that elevation. I mean, the two will marry it.
Councillor Bandridge.
Thank you, Chair. We went on the site visit, and it's quite an unusual shape. The whole land is, it sort of slopes in every direction almost. Where you sort of starts in the sort of top left-hand corner, and then it drops away that way and that way.
Yeah.
Presumably, you're going to have to obviously lay the footings level for obvious reasons. So how roughly are they going to be put in position as the land lies today? Will you be raising any of that land, or will you be excavating the surface in the top left-hand corner, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. The site falls in two directions, but there is it falls predominantly from the front to the back, is my interpretation. On the floor plans, we've actually included 2 or 3 steps within that property. So you come in front of the property and the actual levels of the house follow the slope of that land.
Right.
So around that, principally around the dwelling, we're trying to not build up and not excavate any land at all. So
Right.
in theory, the levels of the house follow the contours of the land from
So
front to back.
the highest existing point will be your highest existing point, approximately. Is that what you're saying?
Nothing will get higher. Yeah, nothing around there will get higher. The patio out the back may stick out the ground because of that level, but yeah.
Yeah. Because I found the drawings, none of them really relate to when you actually stand there on the land and look at it. It's all a bit different to most of the drawings that I've seen, which is confusing. But thank you.
Apologies, yeah.
Councillor Sharps.
Thank you. I noted that on the plans that the garage is removed following planning officer's comments. I won't make any particular guesses on that, but I did notice, I will make a comment that I noticed there was a reasonable amount of parking for the size of the house, which is something that we as planning members of this committee are always looking for. Also, architectural details, material finish, all have to come back to our planning officers for condition, as well as boundary treatment. So for me, this is excellent through conditions as regard to the concerns that I have seen raised. So I think you are, as far as possible, going above and beyond. You did say that design is a personal choice. I understand that, but I would say always, despite design being a personal choice, when it fits into the landscape of the place it's going to sit in, that is always a great thing to consider. So thank you, but I'm going to take on board the details within this report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but do you have a question?
Well, I suppose my question was, I can't see on, it says here regarding the amend of the following client's finishes. were other finishes suggested, and because design is a personal point, were they ruled out completely because of the design put in?
Sorry, what was the question? The materials that were proposed
Yeah,
on the drawing. Maybe I'll take that back a little bit. It's done in stone and brick in order to sort of be part of Eden, if you know what I mean, in terms of the particular, the traditional build. But it also is what the client would have wanted, if you know what I mean. They didn't want a house that was a white rendered box. They didn't want something which was not, modern in terms of what potentially was thought was approved under the outline application, if you know what I mean.
yeah, I understand that, and you are taking, again, there's another thing I can say, you are being as much as you can, you're taking on the solar future as well, which is appreciated as well. So yeah, but I just thought it is all here. We can see where you've taken on and have then also commented that it is a design feature by the client. So thank you for including that in the plan as well.
Welcome. Was there another question?
No, that was a fact.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for our agent? No? Thank you very much.
Chair, that was an observation of being able to read the plans.
Well, I think we all did, didn't we? Officers? Can you take on board Councillor Randall's question as well as anything else you wish to come back on?
Yeah, I mean, critically with regards to the finished floor levels, obviously they will be conditioned. The plans that have been submitted do show the dating point of the ridge height of the neighbouring property. So as part of the level details that will be submitted as part of the conditions, we would expect that dating point to be shown at the ridge height of the neighbouring property, as well as the dating point of the proposed dwelling, so that we ensure that they both marry up together. We are confident and have no reasons to dispute the plans that have been submitted are incorrect. We consider that they are correct. With regards to retaining the retaining wall, the condition is on there relating to boundary treatments. So we will have details of that retaining wall. Materials again is details which are conditioned. Whilst the plans do show an element of the materials proposed, obviously we always insist on seeing samples and getting further details in terms of the specific tiles, name of the tiles that have been submitted, the thickness of the tiles, just so that we can be sure that it complements the surrounding area. Obviously, a lot of points have been raised about the outline permission and the plans that were submitted with that. Obviously, the outline application only considered the principle of development along with the access and reserve matters, as we're seeing today, is relating to landscaping, scale and siting. So any details that were submitted as part of the outline stage in terms of the scale of the proposed development, that was simply indicative. And they weren't approved or assessed as part of the outline application. I know that Councillor Eastwood, within her address, obviously requested quite a number of conditions relating to conditioning the height of the building, moving the building forward, as well as some other conditions, but we simply can't condition those details in terms of requiring the building to be moved slightly forward or the building to be slightly lowered by a condition. We can only consider what has been submitted today in terms of the plans which we are considering and are in front of us. So I think that addresses a lot of the key points. Also, I think Councillor Eastwood mentioned about a condition, or someone mentioned about a condition about not having a garage within the position which was initially proposed. However, if the applicants at a later point wanted to erect a garage, that would require planning permission anyway to be forward of the dwelling house. So as part of that application, we would assess the impact of any garage forward of that, of the proposed building. But clearly, we asked for the garage to be admitted because we were concerned about the impact of a detached garage within the street scene. Okay.
Thank you, councillor Randall, then councillor Barrett.
Yeah, thank you for coming back on that. That's the only thing that I never seem to get with planning, so we, because either you make a condition or you don't make a condition, and if there's a condition, I always thought that actually you didn't like garages in front of a property. So, you know, whether it comes forward at a later stage or not, why can't you make the decision now, setting the trend going forward for a later date?
What as the officer explained, then we have to determine what's before us, and it's before us without the garage.
But can't you make a condition?
Through you, Chair, put a condition on saying that you can't build a garage. You couldn't put a condition on to say no garage shall be erected forward of the principal elevation because it will need planning permission in its own right. So that condition would be unnecessary, and it would be unreasonable. And even if we did apply a condition to say no garage shall be built in front of the dwelling, it wouldn't stop them from submitting a planning application for a garage in front of the property in any event. So it would be a bit of a unnecessary condition to impose.
Yeah, I do get that, but you mean where there's always frequently changes of committee, it's always useful to have something in just to go by in case something comes forward at a later date. That's all that, you know.
Thank you. Councillor Bowes.
No, it's fine. That was summed up quite well.
Oh, okay. Councillor Bagot-Ware.
Thank you. I've got, I guess, two linked questions and one further comment. The two things that have been discussed so far are the height or the ridge height and the building line. Deal with the building line first. My experience with all of the planning to date is that you're always going to get challenged if you try to come in front of the building line. I've never ever heard before of bringing the building further forward than it is currently proposed. It's behind the building line, and therefore, to me, that's been accepted. So I'm very surprised that anyone's suggesting bringing it forward. Second comment is to do with the ridge line. If we condition the ridge line not to be higher than the adjacent property, then that's fact. It cannot be higher. Final point, and it may not be a planning issue for today, but we've had talk about the retaining wall, and I'm assuming it's between the existing property and the new one. Surely that is the responsibility of the existing property, because that property is already built. So I'm just wondering why that has been mentioned. Okay. Bridge, not the alignment, build line, and the retaining wall.
Officers?
Yeah, so in terms of the build line, obviously, yeah, we don't have any concerns with it being set deeper within the site, and indeed it allows for extra landscaping in front of the at the frontage, as well as parking and obviously a turning area as well, so vehicles can leave in a forward gear. So they're always important when we're looking at these sort of applications to ensure that there's sufficient depth from the roadside to the dwelling, so that those factors can be accommodated. With regards to condition relating to the height of the ridge height of the dwelling not to exceed that of the neighbouring property, we feel that the levels condition that we've got would address that, and officers will obviously take that into consideration when those details come in, with regards to making sure that it respects the ridge height of the neighbouring property. That's it.
Thank you.
That's the retaining wall.
Retaining wall. What was the question relating to the retaining wall?
The retaining wall has been mentioned in the application. having seen it yesterday or Tuesday, the retaining wall is actually there now for the property that's already been built. So why has there been any mention about the retaining wall?
Yeah, so we've got a condition relating to boundary treatments, because clearly if the proposed dwelling wants to erect a close bordered fence between the neighbouring property and their proposed property, then that would perhaps require some sort of retaining wall, whether that's retaining wall with a close bordered fence on top. So that's why we've got those conditions and those details.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to add. Sorry, I just wanted to add to what Nathan said as well. Also, in regard to the finished floor levels, the objector has basically said that she believes that the finished floor level would be higher, or the ridge height would be higher. If it is that the dwelling is built higher than yours, then the application has to be built in accordance to the plans submitted. So they would be liable to enforcement action. So that is something that enforcement would investigate should they exceed those building heights.
Thank you. Any other views on this application? Councillor Burbridge.
Yeah, there seem to be three issues here. Going back to the retaining wall, the existing retaining wall, such is wooden, similar to sleepers wall, which is, one could argue questionably its durability and its strength. So if the planning for the new house has a wall built as a retaining wall, that's going to be of some considerable thickness to be able to withstand that. Has that been taken into account where the footprints of the foundations are going to be?
Well, I mean, with regards to that, I'd say that's more of a kind of a building control matter that they would assess as part of the building regulation stage, to make sure that, yeah, you know, the footings aren't going to undermine, or indeed the retaining wall, because I'd imagine that the retaining wall itself would require some piling that may come under the building regulations. So I'd imagine that they would be assessed as part of the building regulations stage.
Well, I mean, if they're going to build a proper retaining wall, it's going to be that sort of about half a metre in width, which is going to seriously reduce the distance between the end wall of the house and that. So it has that been taken into account, leaving enough space between the house and the wall for the applicant to access the back garden or whatever? Or would it just close that gap up?
I mean, at that stage, that would be something that we would consider at this stage. That would be a building control, which comes after.
So
I mean,
they need to discuss that with
the distance from the kind of like the boundary of the neighbour to where the house is. I think that was what 6 meters.
6 meters, yeah.
Oh,
So obviously,
okay.
even if you put a substantial retaining wall in, you've still got enough space.
That's fine. No, the other thing is the site itself, and it's a shame that there were only 3 committee members actually at the visit, because it's quite an unusual site. The drawings that I've seen up there, I don't know if you can put them up, the plan views of them, are totally misleading in the lie of the land. For that one, right, and that one, it both shows the virtually a level field. It's not, you've already heard that there's the drop of 1.5 meters. Now there's a drop shown on that, but then it comes back up to level again. So you've got the level of the front door is virtually level with the front door of the existing property, and that won't be the situation at all. It will be probably about 1.3 meters below that, won't it? It's certainly not going to be up that height, because the ground sharply drops away. So I find it's very, very confusing. The picture underneath has got the drop on it, but the one at the front doesn't. It's all over the place. But my point I'm trying to make is that this house is being put in what is now open countryside. And it's as you're coming in to the village from Morton direction, you're looking up, and that will be the first property you see after the East of Eden farm, which is down the hill from it. I think that what is being considered an objection is the fact that this will not fit in with the street scene. You've got smaller buildings all coming down sloping road. And then you're going to have this bigger house, the first house you see, and then going along with smaller properties. I think it stand out. In Silverstone, there are two houses that have just been finished. One's for sale now for £1.3 million. They're on the Toaster Road, and everyone who goes past say they look totally out of place. And I think that's what, if that is built to those levels and everything, I've got nothing against the house, side of the house or anything. I think it's fine. It's just sitting too high. And I also agree that the pushing it back further into the open countryside doesn't help. But that alignment is also important for as you enter into the village. It will be sort of a gateway view. I know it's not a very busy used road, but it's still a way into the village. So I've got my strong feelings about this, that it needs pulling forward and it needs the ridge height. And I would suggest the ridge height should be actually lower than the house we can see there, to give it that perspective as you come in from the countryside, from open countryside into that. You've got this gateway building as such. And it's going to look wrong, and that's my feeling, and I support the objections in that consideration.
Thank you very much. Any other views, Councillor Sharps?
Is it normal in planning for us to make the first house on the entry to a village lower than the previous house?
I mean, every application is assessed on a case-by-case basis. So in this instance, I feel like if the first dwelling, the subject dwelling, was lower, then wouldn't that the second property would be on a higher land, so on a higher level, so you'd still see the second property. So I believe in this case, to ask for it to be lower than number 7, officers don't consider that something that would improve the character and appearance to the area. It is noted that the property does sit in a prominent location, and it is the first. It would appear as a focal point into the village when entering. However, given the land levels, yes, it is a higher dwelling, but it does sit at a lower land level in comparison to this neighbouring dwelling. Secondly, in comparison to the open countryside, I believe that the principle of that development has already been established. So we can go back on the principle of development. It's already been established at outline stage.
Thank you. Otherwise, I would believe we would be just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The houses in principle would play that.
If we follow that, yes, Councillor.
Probably also, yeah. I'd probably just also I think obviously we've heard from the neighbour tonight mentioning that her property is 8.2 metres high, and obviously this dwelling is 9.1. So what we're talking about is a difference of 0.9 metres or 900 millimetres. And looking on the photos, I'm confident that can be achieved with the levels to ensure that the heights are the same.
Thank you. Councillor Barter.
Can I ask for some legal advice without adjourning? How valid is the point that what is on these plans differs allegedly substantially from what was indicated at outline stage? Do we expect there to be a relationship, or is a house a house a house?
Ms. Hall?
Chair. To be fair, this is more a planning matter than it is a legal matter, not trying to spin out of it at all. I think the reality is that outline is outline. It's the principle of the development, as officers have stated this evening. And then when you get to reserved matters, that's when you get the detailed proposals at that point. So there is anticipated that whatever's presented at outline is indicative, and it may well change at reserved matter application. In terms of the degree of those changes, that would be a matter for the planning officers to assess at that point of determination.
Thank you very much. I love these words, indicative and illustrative. Governments cover up an awful lot under those words.
Mr. Loud, do you have anything to add?
Only that with outline permissions, you know, it's not uncommon not to see any illustrative plans at all showing the scale and heights of dwellings, because obviously they're reserved for the reserved matters stage. So yeah, it is typical that, you know, outline is just assessing the principle of development together with the matters which haven't been reserved, and in this case it was access. So there are the two elements that they were considered as part of the outline. Now clearly if they had submitted something that we found was unacceptable in terms of a scale and size, then you know, we would be recommending refusal for it. However, the details that have been submitted, we consider they're acceptable in accordance with our development plan. And that's why we're recommending approval for what's in front of us.
Thank you. Councillor People.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Under 7.24, various permitted development restrictions are included as part of the outline commission. So I was really concerned with Wendy Randall talking about the garage. Surely the garage have to go in for a full planning permission if they want to put a garage on that site, because they wouldn't be able to build it in a permitted development, would they? So that would ensure, and going forward, that anything built around it like a garage would have to go for a full planning permission. Is that true?
That is true, councillor.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further points to raise? We'll start the debate. Who's going first? Well, we have an applicant. Yes, Councillor Bartek.
I was simply going to say that, especially as it's a genuine self-build and on the basis of the advice we've just been given, I am having trouble seeing grounds to object as opposed to grounds to not like.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Yeah, I'd probably go along with William's summary there. If I'm honest, I think it's conditioned quite holistically there, and I think we've got to back the safeguards that Nathan has put in place there. So my view would be to accept officer's recommendation.
Okay, so do I have a proposer? Yeah, I'll take you as a proposer. Do we have a seconder? Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak on the proposal? All those in favour of the recommendation to approve, please show. Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. And as I have no further business, I close the meeting. Thanks. Thank you all very much.
Just for the benefit of the webcast, Chair, because we've cut off half the webcast with our temporary camera, it was 8-4-2 against, and therefore the motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.